Today we're reviewing the players with the 5 highest kill point scores in all of Rise of Kingdoms. And these scores are absolutely insane. The accounts are absolutely stacked. So stick around in this video for some truly jaw-dropping kill point scores. Hello my friends and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, and today's video is sponsored by the makers of Rise of Kingdoms. And what I really wanted to do was just check out the number of kill points the top players have in Rise of Kingdoms to see where the benchmark is set. And let me tell you, it is really insane. So today we're going to look at the top 5, but I wanted to give 2 quick shout outs to number 7 and number 6. And at number 7, for kill points in Rise of Kingdoms, according to the data from rockboard.com, link is in the description, by the way, if you want to check them out. According to that data, Baba TC Ataturk is number 7 on the list at 38.1 billion kill points, which is absolutely insane. He's got 1.1 billion power, and he's currently in Kingdom 2489, which is a project that Fa and others have created in order to bring a group back to a younger kingdom, win Osiris Leagues, and grow a huge kingdom. So they already are fighting like crazy, and Baba's got 227 million dead troops with the highest power at 1.3 billion. Wow. Under 10 billion resources gathered and 104 billion resource assistance. Baba's account is absolutely insane, but let's look at number 6 on the list. Okay, these are the honorable mentions for our top 5. Man, Leopard's got a crazy account too. Here we are in 1960, home of a lot of the players that have the most kill points in the game. And by the way, as a kingdom, they have the most kill points in the game, which is insane. GT Leopard at 509 million power sits at number 6 on the list for the players with the top kill points. They're at 38.56 billion KP. And if we check them out, we look at their additional details. They have 158.9 million dead troops, which is disgusting. Okay, that is almost certainly entirely T5 troops, which means that's 1.5 billion power worth of dead freaking troops. Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. They've got 27.8 billion resources gathered and 17.8 billion resource assistance. Their highest power is 527 million power. So they are starting to approach their highest power ever. I suppose we can drill into the kill points as well, but you can see it's mostly tier 5s. Not a bunch of T4s, it's mostly T5s, which means he's not fighting super weak opponents, which also makes the kill score even more impressive. This brings us to number 5 on the list, which is Osno. I assume I'm saying that correctly. Apologies if I'm not. They're in 1365, which is another top-tier Imperium kingdom. In fact, if you checked out my recent video, I covered the top Imperium kingdoms in Rise of Kingdoms. Card will be up in the top, but consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already for more videos just like this one, bringing you information about the strongest and hardest hitting players and alliances and kingdoms in the game. So JST is the alliance that they're living in at 40.09 billion kill points, almost 40.1. That is an insane amount of KP. 130 million dead troops is nuts. They are very far from their highest power. They are 209 million, but their highest was 322 million power. And their kill points look very similar to Leopard in terms of being mostly tier 5, okay? So this is coming from battling difficult opponents. They've got 23 billion resources gathered, 78 billion resource assistance. I don't know why I'm really talking about those statistics in a kill point video, but it's one of the few things we can look at, so here we are talking about it. Let's go to number 4 on the list. This player is also in 1365. They're in the Alliance OG. They're at 203, almost 204 million power with 41.7 billion KP. That's a big number, man. And when we get a look, it's mostly tier 5s as well, so we know this is difficult opponents. We look at more info over here, and they have 189 million dead troops I mean, if that were all T5s, you're looking at 1.89 billion power in dead freaking troops. That is commitment. They are very far from their highest power, so you know they're really throwing down 512.5 million power. That is a very, very far drop from their highest power, which again signals their level of contribution, and that is a badge of honor. We're looking at 14 billion resources gathered and 127 billion resource assistance. Man, that's a lot of resources. If you're sending resources, I'd be happy to take some, okay? I mean, I'm always happy to be a recipient of resources. This is a very powerful account, but we need to go look at number 3 on the list. This is Clubman, aka Border Patrol, if you've attended my live streams when we battled against him when he was in 556. I have never seen a player migrate as many times as Clubman, but to his credit, he has a way of always, without failure, being where the fight is. And the name Border Patrol comes from the fact that the dude will hunt kill points wherever you are. He will hunt the border of that territory, and he will get those KP. And he's been doing this for a very, very long time. That's not a criticism. That's an observation of how he plays, and he gets that KP, man. 43 billion kill points is a lot. He's got an even more stacked ratio of T5s to T4s. That is actually really impressive at 35 billion kill points coming from T5s. Honestly, 35.5. Let's give it the full credit that it's due. That's a lot of KP. Now, in terms of dead troops, he is not as high power as some of the other players that have been here, which also I think in some ways makes this much more impressive. At 127 million power and a highest power of 152 million power, he's lost 53 million troops, presumably mostly T5s, and he has gathered 34 billion resources, which, hey, fights and gathers. I respect it, man. 7 billion resource assistance, which is far fewer than the others, which means, yes, he is migrating, but he is probably spending all his resources fighting before he migrates, which is why his resource assistance is relatively low compared to the other folks that we've looked at in this list. Now, if we just get a peek at his commander tab, just real quick, we can see he's got Boudica on health, Joan Prime on health defense, Rally is on Gilgamesh, and then also Nebu for the troop attack. Very interesting. Let's go now. Can we see his talents? No. Okay. Let's go now to number 2 on the list. I would be really surprised if you haven't heard the name Arvix before, because this dude owns so many accounts, it's astonishing. And this is just one of them. At 43.9 billion kill points, he is throwing down 374 million power and a pretty solid ratio over here of T4 and T5s. 34 billion kill points from T5s is honestly very, very impressive. If we look, you can see, although also, I wasn't calling this out earlier, I should have, that he's also playing Champions of Olympia. But if we look at that kill number, my God, 276 million dead troops is insane. That is insane. And he's so far from his highest power, which is also a badge of honor that is extremely impressive. 823 million on the highest power, 374 on the current power. That is some big freaking commitment from this player. 8.5 billion resources gathered, and then 62 billion resource assistance. Arvix freaking throws down, and he's in the kingdom that's got the highest kill points, which, let me tell you, I mean, that seems like a pretty solid place to be if you want to really, really play a lot and push those KP. This brings us to the number 1 player by KP in the game, and that's Ahmad Aziz. And this dude has had a name in the Rise of Kingdoms community for a very long time and a reputation for throwing down. 291 million power and 44 billion. Let's read the full number. 44,145,958,846 KP on this dude. 34 billion of that coming from T5, and 10 billion coming from T4. That is just a jaw-dropping amount of KP. And on this account, they're sitting at 291 million power, which is a solid drop from their highest at 488.7. They have 174 million dead troops, which is nutty. 15.6 billion resources gathered, and 44.6 billion resource assistance. That is really, really impressive. It's honestly almost embarrassing to now compare to my account just to give perspective on how insane all these accounts are. Because when I show you my account, I'm sitting at 13.4 billion kill points, and I'm sitting at, let's see here, dead troops, 66 billion, 66 million dead troops over here. And I play a fair amount, although in fairness, we seem to be unable to get into KVK right now. And also our last KVK was a joke. So that's definitely hurt in terms of my ability to drive up my number of dead troops and also to actually get some fights to get some KP. In terms of my ratio over here, it's pretty similar to some of the biggest players in the game. Like if you multiply by 4, I think that they all actually have a more impressive ratio of T5s to T4s. I think if you just multiply up over here, I would technically, if you multiply my score by 4, I'd be the highest in the game, but my ratio would not be as good as the other players that we've reviewed today. So those are some really, really, really impressive accounts. Big shout out to each and every one of them, as well as the folks who are near the top of the list, but aren't quite there. There's some names that I can't pronounce. Number 10 in the list, though, I can pronounce. That's Benjamin Ayubi. One player, YY from GT, is also in that top 10, as well as Luna. So big shout out to them as well, and to everyone who's in like the top 100. I mean, it's really nutty, man. If you wanted to check out that video with the top kingdoms by power, check out the card in the end screen. These are the craziest Imperium kingdoms in the game.